Raise your hand if you've climbed Mount Everest. Nobody? Well, you know what? Neither have I. In fact, I've never even been to the Himalayas. But I have conquered my own Mount Everest. Fellow Toastmasters, when I was 18, I was overcome by anxiety and panic, and my life changed drastically. In what seemed like the blink of an eye, I went from being carefree and outgoing to being anxious all the time. I was so anxious that my resting heart rate was 120 beats per minute. That's almost double the normal average. My panic attacks were triggered by social situations. So when I was with people, that heart rate would jump up to 140, maybe even 150 beats per minute. But add to that dizziness, shortness of breath, and an impending sense of doom. Imagine feeling all of this while talking to the person next to you. Do you think you could sustain a conversation? I couldn't. I was terrified and ashamed, and I stayed away from social situations. But to my dismay, I discovered that this only made me more afraid. And it became apparent that to have any semblance of a normal life, I would need to do the hard thing, confront my anxiety, and put myself in the situations I dreaded. You see, I was living on a plateau, and it was time for me to move, time to face my demons, time to climb my Mount Everest. My first stop on the mountain was a place of learning. I read everything I could get my hands on to understand my anxiety. I borrowed so many books from the library. My late fees were their main source of revenue. I learned that 18% of Americans are afflicted with some form of anxiety disorder. I learned that my own anxiety was a confluence of a genetic predisposition and stressful life experiences. I learned I wasn't crazy. I wasn't defective. And my anxiety, it wasn't my fault. The sun was shining on the summit of my behemoth of a mountain, and I felt the pull of a better life. So I decided to climb higher. My second stop on the mountain is a place I stayed at for a long time. This is where I made myself do all those things I dreaded. And I bet you'll never guess the words I dreaded hearing the most. Hey, Aurora, do you want to go out to lunch? And I think to myself, oh no. Oh, this means I need to sit down, talk to people, look them in the eye while eating. I'll do it, but I really don't want to because I'm going to panic and they'll see it and they'll judge me and they won't accept me and then I'll be alone. But I was already alone. My anxiety had built a wall between me and the rest of the world. And no matter how badly I wanted to connect with people and get close to them, I just couldn't. I was in a constant state of fight or flight. And then one day, I met my husband on a blind lunch date that almost never happened. I walked into El Torito and was greeted by the tallest glass of water. Where other people saw my anxiety, Ramon saw me. He loved me when my anxiety was out of control and I felt like nothing but a shadow of myself. He climbed that mountain with me. and I knew I wasn't alone. I arrived at my third stop without realizing it. You see, I became a mother. I cradled my child in my arms, and when she cried, "Mama," I said, "Mama's got you, baby. I love you, Cammy girl." I didn't want her to tread the same ground I did. The life I envisioned for her was leaps and bounds beyond my own. But then I realized that the way I lived my life would pave the way for hers. And I knew in that instant that I had to become more than I was. I had to become the best version of myself that I could possibly be. For Cammy, for Ramon, for me. Oh, I really upped the ante at this point. My coping skills had made anxiety tolerable, but that was no longer good enough, because now I was looking to thrive. And so I did the unthinkable. I accepted my anxiety and allowed it to exist, and this one shift changed everything. I continued to do the scary things, and over time, anxiety receded to the background. Still there, but no longer the star of the show. And this is how I regained control of my life. If there's anything I've learned on this journey, it's that we can't always choose our circumstances. But we always choose who we become because of them. We are greater than any hardship that can befall us. So when your hardship tries to push you into a box, do not yield. Galvanize your resolve and fight for your vision. Your best life and your best self, they are waiting for you. But to get to them, you must summon all your courage and climb your Mount Everest.